So here's the newest project. This is an original 1973 Big Block Corvette coupe. Of course. Yeah, it looks pretty good. Oh, that one's on there tight. Ooh! Oh, yeah. There's already oil on at least half of these, so that's awesome. So step one in getting this car to run for longer than basically the carburetor bowl is to put a fuel pump on it. Here's the old one. Obviously it's seen better days. The fuel that came out of it was dark brown. It looked like chocolate milk. So not good. Here's the new one. Basically it's identical as the old one. Sometimes you get ones that are a little bit longer. They will work, but the main important thing you want to do is make sure you have the 3 intake, outlet, and then return for the gas. Now I'm going to show you something cool on these big blocks. So they have a plug right underneath where the fuel pump mounts to the block, where you can actually take this rod, this fuel pump rod, all the way out. There's no plate like on a small block Chevrolet. I don't know how well this is going to show up, but so you see that indent at the bottom, basically right there. That's where the hole is for the fuel pump rod, and what you can do is you can take it all the way out, you can clean out that cavity, but then when you put the fuel pump in, you don't have to fight the rod because you can put some grease on the end of it in order to hold it up. So it's really simple. This grease won't hurt anything, it'll just mix with the oil basically. So you get some grease, you don't need a whole bunch. Basically what you can do is you can take it, stick it up inside, then you can take a screwdriver, basically you can push the rod up as high as you need to. So this is awkward, I know. So when you put the fuel pump in, you notice the rod is pushed upward and you can't see it, so that way putting the fuel pump in, you're not fighting that rod with the lever on the whole time. So we'll get that in and then we'll get this thing fired up. Alright, we have parts. So what we haven't done basically is an ignition tune-up, and that's what these parts are. We have spark plugs, we have points, we have a cap and a rotor, and a couple other things, I have spark plug wires and stuff like that. So we're going to put all that new stuff in. I didn't change any of it. All I basically did was make sure we got spark. So it's not running the best as you guys just saw, so I think that'll be the next step. Pull the plugs and see what we can find. There's new wires and stuff. See if that changes anything. So all the plugs are out. New wires put on. They're all really identical. So they all look like this. They're all black, they're all gas fouled, they're all sooty and just nasty. I'm surprised it even ran on any of that stuff. If you look back at the carburetor, you can see this carburetor was not running right, which also shows on the plugs. Now one thing that I did find, which I thought was weird, take a look, that plug versus this plug. So this one, there's no threads on the top, and I don't know why. This one, I feel like it sticks about that much into the cylinder head, so where all the threads went, I don't know. It unscrewed just fine, and the new one went in just fine, so I don't know. Check out these heat shields on the bottoms of this manifold. I've never seen those before, and I know why they toss them. It took twice as long to do this because of those heat shields that just got in the way of the socket. Alright, we are ready to start this car up for the third time. I have my timing light out because we did mess with the distributor a little bit. I was able to clean up the timing tab and put a white mark so I can see it a little bit better when the car's running. It's pretty dark in there, but fingers crossed with new plugs, new wires, new rotor. I haven't got the cap yet, but with all those things new, it should run just a little bit better. Choke completely, pretty much almost all the way off at this point. But hey, it starts up and runs fairly decent. I let it warm up before we do any kind of timing. Hotter. So, kind of dialed it in. It's still not running 100%. The weird thing is it only started doing that once it got hot. And I don't know if you can hear it, but there's a very faint, I wouldn't call it a knock, more like a tick. I'm not sure what that is, but I feel like this engine, it for sure needs some cycles. Needs some heat cycles. The good thing is I don't see much blow by or anything like that. So I think it might still live. But you see the little shake, the little baby shake? And I don't know why that is. Kind of sounds like it's coming from underneath this rocker cover. Might just be a lifter that just needs to pump up just a little bit more. Old cars, the easiest way to figure out which cylinder isn't firing, basically just unplug them one at a time. But watch this. I unplug this, and the idle doesn't change. It runs exactly the same. And I know at least getting sparks to the wire. Another way, it's not as obvious or easy, is what you can do is you can take your temp gun. They all should be somewhat similar, so around 200. Manifolds a little harder than headers, but take a look at this one. It's like 100 degrees. I can't really get close to it, but at the same time, it should be hotter than that. So number 8 is not firing. Let's see if we can figure out why. One of the main reasons why number 8 won't fire is there's some kind of large vacuum leak right here for the headlights, which the car is sitting this long, it makes sense. So let's plug that and see if our idle changes. It really doesn't like that. Alright, so that's plugged. So maybe without a potential vacuum leak on that number 8 runner, it'll run a little bit more rich and then it'll start hitting. It still runs about the same though. There's also that knocking noise. I don't know what to think about that. Warmer. What are we idling at? 800? Another easy way to test for vacuum leaks is take a pair of pliers and just pinch off hoses. And if you see any kind of like really obvious change, then you know that was the problem. As of right now, I don't really see anything. But I think we're going to have to dig a little bit deeper into this. I don't think a new distributor cap will fix this. It might be that the engine's just worn out. I mean, it might be, you know, the valves aren't sealing on number 8. I don't know. So, we'll have to dig deeper into it. More investigation on this number 8, why it's not firing. It has 120 psi of compression, maybe 130. That's plenty to fire. So we're going to move on to what I think is next. I think there's a possibility that this intake is cracked because, I mean, the plug's good, the wire's good, the compression's good. I mean, other than the intake being cracked and flooding the runners with nasty exhaust gas, it could be a valve not sealing, I guess. One reason I do think that it is the intake that's cracked is because this is an EGR intake, but also, you look at this carburetor, look how black and nasty that is. I mean, that just, to me, that shows me that what's going on in the intake is not normal. Look at that powder soot stuff in the bottom of this intake. It's the same kind of stuff that you see clogging up the EGR passages and all that kind of stuff. Look at this stuff. It's definitely carbon. I do know that carbon should not be in the intake runners like this. That, I mean, that's just, it shouldn't be in there. So, we're gonna keep looking, see what else we can find.